Hey, how are you? I'm SliceofOtaku, and in the last video, I asked you all if you would like me to make a video once again on a Lapis and Peridot fusion, but instead focused on predicting what their powers, personality, and other quirks would possibly be like, which is exactly what we're going to be doing with this video. So firstly, let's tackle the section that personally excites me the most, the potential power of said fusion. Now, by default, the closest relative fusion we have within the story thus far would be Malachite, as she's been Lapis's only fusion, and Peridot has yet to fuse at all just yet. And if you don't already know, outside of Garnet, who would just be a cop-out pick in my opinion, Malachite is my favorite fusion. Both her ferocity and power were undeniable, and I think that the very same could be said for a fusion between Lapis and Peridot, despite neither of them ever being soldier gems. Because to begin with, there is the Lapis component, which we all know to be absurdly powerful. I mean, despite having a cracked gem at the time, she managed to steal the Earth's ocean while simultaneously fending off each individual crystal gem. And since then, we still have yet to see her go all out in perfect health. Even in the case of Malachite, she was exhausted from keeping the perfect quartz, Homeworld's war machine Jasper, bound below the crushing pressure of the ocean for months. So yeah, Lapis is nothing to play around with. Then there's Peridot, and when it comes to Peridot's powers, I've come to notice an overwhelming misunderstanding when it comes to what she actually does, which isn't all that surprising considering the capacity wasn't intended to be within her design by Homeworld, so our comprehension is innately low. You see, it is commonly believed that Peridot utilizes ferrokinesis, the manipulation of metal, which in the literal sense isn't necessarily wrong, but following that logic, by putting water in the freezer, turning it into ice, I have water manipulation. The thing is, we have only ever seen Peridot levitate metallic objects, leaning her abilities more towards the manipulation of magnetism. But make no mistake, that alone is incredible, especially when coupled with her technological prowess. But what I find to be the most interesting about this ability is its room for growth. As I've stated before, this power is not a stock capability, and so Peridot has had to explore them. And each time we see her use them, she gradually gains better control. So despite how her power may look right now, it is possible that it could manifest into something different entirely in the future. And I mean, if it does in fact become stronger at some point, the highest degree I could imagine right now would be electromagnetism, which would just be absurd and put this fusion onto a cataclysmic level of power, so let's not go there just yet. But yeah, the conjoining of these abilities could bring about some interesting results. By coming together, this fusion could likely harness true ferrokinesis, liquidating metals in a fashion similar to water, making it mendable and capable of changing shape. On top of that, just like Malachite or Lapis by her lonesome, I'd imagine that being near large bodies of water would be ideal for the harnessing of this gem's abilities. But what's crazy is that whereas places like Empire City wouldn't be the best environment for Lapis as water access would be limited, due to the inclusion of Peridot in this fusion, a dense cityscape could be no different from being exposed to the ocean because there's just so much metallic objects surrounding them, meaning that this fusion could be in her element beyond even the innate 71% planetary coverage water has, which mind you, considering the missing landmass oddity on the Steven Universe continental map, could mean that water has more than just 71% coverage to begin with. So yeah, she would be powerful in most places for sure. But a certain vulnerability you may have noticed with Lapis's manipulation of water is that she needs to have her hands up in order to actively control it, unless in the case of her flight, or when she made the water pillar, which, considering the sheer number of errors made between Mirror Gem and Ocean Gem alone, I think that we can easily chalk that part up to be a mistake. But yeah, Lapis has to have her hands up. But as Peridot has matured her powers, she's come to not need her hands actively extended in order to keep metallic objects elevated. And so this fusion could end up using her powers without the use of her hands, which could free them up for hand-to-hand combat. But I doubt that part just because close quarters combat isn't exactly their strong suit. And another way in which Peridot's inclusion may cover Lapis's weaknesses has to do with Lapis's frailty. Because for as amazing as her powers are, Lapis at the end of the day was not built to ever engage in combat, which is why a single blow from Bismuth was enough to poof her. But as we've come to know with the episode The Kindergarten Kid, Peridot is rather difficult to poof, capable of persisting despite numerous blows, presumably as a homeworld contingency against accidents on the job for kindergartners. So the fusion of these two may not be super durable, but they wouldn't be super frail either, and would instead be relatively average in this field. Next up, we have personality and quirks, and despite our long conversation about their potential powers, I don't think she'd be prone to fighting, but would do so if she had no other choice. And my personal imagery associated with this fusion is that of a hippie, exactly what Uncle Andy called them at first glance. Mostly lounging around, being artistic and creative, and only contributing when they absolutely must. And so right now, I'm not really expecting anything radically different from what we've seen from them being together within the barn. When Peridot is happy, she is a beacon of self-confidence, something that Lapis could really benefit from. And the inclusion of Lapis would sort of ground that confidence and potentially rationalize it, as Peridot is rather quick to get excited and or agree to things without completely processing. I think that a combination of Peridot's intelligence and Lapis's caution could create a really great planner or tactician. And with that, although she probably wouldn't intend to be malicious most of the time, this fusion would have a sharp tongue, as in she would be prone to being rather blunt and sometimes rude. All in all, in a lot of regards, I think their personalities would balance each other out within her. And now, as for her quirks, I think that when she freaks out, it would be pretty hectic. Both Lapis and Peridot are rather animated with their freak out reactions, so this would be taking those to another level. It would be important to keep this fusion calm at all costs. And next, of course, you know the meat morphs are going to be on another level too. Like the toilets, every meat morph would be a collaborative piece, making them all the more ingenious. But lastly, they would have the most distinct, dorky laugh of all time. Take Peridot's Poindexter laugh and complement it with Lapis's snorts. And I think we have something that you guys are just not ready for. And for our last segment, let's finally discuss what the name of this gem could end up being, and considering I myself am by no means an expert on real-world gemstones, we will be heavily consulting the internet, and so as always, all of my sources will be in the description. But yeah, to keep this part concise, I picked out 3 gems that I think are likely, so if you have a gem in mind that I don't mention, go ahead and leave them in the comments, along with why you think they would be a good candidate. And also, all of the gems I'll be bringing up have colors reflective of both Peridot and Lapis, but I'd like to note that fusions like Smoky Quartz don't exactly reflect the colors of their components, so it's not a necessity, but this is mostly for fun anyways, so it's whatever. The first gem up is Larimar, a multicolored blue-green variety of pectolite. Now, in terms of the gem's physical state, it's known to be a rather soft gem, making it rather easy to scratch, although in certain cases, the fibers are strong and interlocking, causing it to be rather tough, which calls back to what we discussed about her poofing tolerance. Larimar is also said to aid in emotional stress release and clear communication, something that Peridot and Lapis lacked in the episode Raising the Barn, which could ultimately be the barrier keeping them from fully connecting and being a cohesive fusion pair. Next, we have Paraiba Tourmaline, a blue to blue-green colored variety of Cuprian Elbate, a gem said to help one have compassion for both themselves as well as the planet, leading to a heightened state of consciousness, provoking one to serve humanity, encouraging forgiveness, freeing you from the shackles of pain felt in the past. At one point, Lapis claimed that she never believed in the Earth to begin with, and Peridot once saw it as a problematic rock she'd unfortunately been assigned to. But together, they've come to care for the planet in ways they could have never imagined. And if this fusion is to happen, Lapis will of course have to decide to defend the planet, moving beyond the pain she once felt in favor of the bond she forged with Peridot and everyone else. And last but not least, we have Dioptase, a green gem with hints of blue, which encourages compassion and forgiveness. Said to activate the memories of past lives, this gem allows one to confront whatever is holding them back from their past and come to live in the moment, making the most of life's plentiful riches. Both Lapis and Peridot once lived entirely different lives from the ones they've come to know on Earth, and the acceptance of that, aided by their connection, truly shows when they are together. Once reunited, they will have to forgive not only each other, but themselves, which will no doubt bring them even closer, strengthening what they have. But you know what? Regardless of what this gem's name ends up being, I'm sure that considering all the things the crew could possibly do with her character, it won't really matter because she'll be worth noting regardless. And before I close out the video, I have a few announcements to make. First off, the other day I was inspired on Twitter when one of you guys by the name of Kim Vanessa showed me their take on a Lapidot fusion. And so if any of you guys consider yourselves to be artistically inclined, then feel free to send me your own takes on this fusion. And you know, I'd prefer you send them on Twitter, but Instagram works too. And the reason I'm saying all this is because I had so much fun making this video and I just want to do more. So with each fusion prediction video, I'll just have like a montage of the art you guys send me. And you don't need to be on Rebecca Sugar level or anything. I mean, the fact that you would even send me art to begin with is more than enough greatness. So yeah, in the comments, go ahead and let me know what potential fusion I should talk about next, and I'll end up making one of these videos every so often. Next, I am really excited to announce that for the first time ever, we have SliceofOtaku merchandise. In the spirit of Valentine's Day, we are selling a limited edition I Love You collection, which comes in multiple colors as both long sleeve and short sleeve t-shirts. And this collection will only be available from February 14th to February 17th at midnight, so get them while you can. A link to the Shop of Otaku website will be in the description, and US shipping is free. But yeah, I decided to put this part at the end of the video instead of the beginning because it's you guys that make it to the end each and every time to hear me say I love you that I do this stuff for. And this isn't some Teespring campaign. A lot of work was put into getting all of this up and running, so hopefully you appreciate that at the very least. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome Valentine's Day. I love you.